Scale by Keith Buckley. Chapter 1. Coincidentally, I happened upon a beat of light. After prematurely returning home from Australia where nothing moved me, where I found no inexplicable splendor on mountain or sand, where words cowered in inaccessible dry corners rather than being rendered insufficient by rampant awe, there was a droplet of illumination left for me in a brochure outside of our building, blown up against the fence that followed the sidewalk to the door. Though neither my name nor address was on it, it was written in a language that spoke to a very specific and personal looming darkness. That darkness, the one this surreptitious letter acknowledged, had recently discovered me again holed up in my hotel room where I was too weak and too broken in too many places to refuse it entry. To find this piece of paper just days later was a welcomed rope dropped by unfamiliar hands from the top of my empty well, and though typically a staunch empirical skeptic, I could not help but wonder as I scanned the pamphlet that cold morning, what if? It was a simple enough question, but one I never dared to ask myself, most likely due to the paralyzing uncertainty it promised to bring with it. Yet, standing in my front yard, antenna snapped in half along with my rib, my jaw still stinging, my tooth cracked, and the ring around my left eye gradually shifting colors from deep purples and reds to light yellows and greens like the feathers of some exotic bird deep into a mating dance, I knew that a drastic and thorough overhaul was absolutely necessary if I hoped to continue forward. The field could not be raised as long as I was still dumbly tending to the infected crops. Asking myself, what if, as I skimmed the testimonials, meant firstly admitting to myself that I was wrong about myself, which was a feeling not unlike coming to consciousness after talking in your sleep to someone who lays next to you and shares not the same dream. Your self-assuredness and issues pertinent to the entire underworld that you bring to the surface with proud Herculean strength eventually dwindles down to a drowsy relationship with a personal sphere of cloudy hints, and as logic arrives and attempts to quiet your enthusiastic candor, the knowingness eventually vanishes completely, your awakening leaving you to feel lonely, distant, confused, and ashamed as the very real place you just traveled from retreats into mist like an indifferent city bus keeping to its own schedule while you run desperately after it until you can run no more and stand defeated in the street. To make matters more difficult, how does one convince themselves that they are not the things that define them? It's like using language in order to express the idea that language does not exist, or painting a picture of nothingness given only the colors that somethingness has afforded you. We are not wont to accept such an absurdity in the presence of overwhelming evidence to the contrary, or to suffer an affront to our identity from a voice infinitely tinier than our elephantine selves. But then again, I repeated to myself, what if? After 3 decades of life with the support of 2 happily married parents, the unconditional though never vocally confessed love of a younger sister, and few friends that remain virtually unchanged since high school, not to mention a system of beliefs heard, understood, entertained, and adopted throughout my formative years which are now reinforced daily both on stage and in interviews in my adult, I was not eager to admit that the results I had recently come upon might not support the theory I originally posited. I was simply too deep undercover to casually reemerge as the man I was before I went down in, had worked far too hard to lock up the lab because of a hypothetical. However, I felt, or rather some small part of me signaled it feeling, that there was a molecular lie being told that had fooled even the great chemist. I clutched the paper and mindfully went inside, having made a decision that felt like the first decision I had ever made. It was one that began as a ripple in a stagnant pond of old energy and registered in something greater than my brain, moving through scaffolding sturdier than my bones. There was a child in me who needed to walk for no other reason than it was his instinct to finally live upright.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.